and welcome to the next episode of Bisportuals, your favorite sports podcast. I'm your host, Ryan.
I'm Cameron.
And I'm Kyle.
Thank you all for joining us on this wonderful week. The All-Star weekend has just wrapped up in the NBA. Did you guys watch any of the All-Star events?
I was
dunk
working.
contest. Holy shit, Mac McClung.
Mac McClung. He's got to make like 3 times more in the dunk contest than he does in the G League.
Oh yeah,
That is
for sure.
true.
That's
That is
that's
a
got to
fact.
be just most of his income.
I like
It's the
how
dunk
some
contest.
stars are saying that they're gonna dunk now after seeing that. I mean, they're saying it. It's probably not gonna happen. Would be really cool though.
The only thing I care
Ja
about.
Morant, yeah.
Yeah, John Morant tweeted at Zach LaVine and Aaron Gordon.
Zach LaVine replied he might be in.
That would be
So-
awesome.
The only thing I care about to push my agenda further is that Damian Lillard has retired from three-point contest competition because he is washed.
And he lost
didn't even
the
beat a fan.
$100,000 shootout. Yeah.
I
He
think
lost
I
the
think
Mr. Beast challenge.
In all honesty, I think he wanted that fan to win.
I think he did.
Probably.
I don't care. It's good for my agenda.
Yeah. But we'll get to the NBA later in the episode. But we are officially, fully in the NFL offseason. And that means, I believe the NFL calls it the non-playing season. At least that's what I've heard
it's
Rich
like a
Eisen
fringe.
say, but he's a shill and a bum, and I don't like him. So
Speak your
we're in the
truth.
offseason. It's the offseason. But that doesn't mean we still can't have fun and talk about some moves that teams might make or some sports media organizations making predictions way too fucking early. We'll get to ESPN. ESPN has come out with their way too early 2025 power rankings. We'll get to them in a little bit. But first, we've got some games to play. We're going to start off with a classic game. We're talking 20 questions. But this is NFL player 20 questions. So I have a player. I am thinking of a player. I have their stats right here on my other monitor. You guys are working together to try to figure out what player I am thinking of. You have a total of 20 questions, and they must be yes or no questions. Do you guys understand?
Sir,
Yeah,
yes,
I do
sir.
have a
All right.
question.
And then I would say, do we have any other questions before we get started?
Yes. Am I, as a gentleman with like a paler complexion, allowed to listen to Lauryn Hill?
You're
Look,
awful.
if I tell you no, I'm incriminating myself because I love the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. I think it's a great album. But I don't think I'm the person to tell you.
You should ask her. Hit her up.
Okay.
Yeah, you should call Lauren.
I'll
Give
send
her
her a Facebook message.
an
her up on
Instagram, a
MySpace.
Facebook Messenger DM. All right, but let's hop right in. So this first player, I've got him, I've got his stats, I've got his career right here. So we'll start with Kyle, and then we'll alternate, so both of you will get 10 questions. Okay?
Okay.
So Kyle, first question.
I'm happy that you determined that it's a male. Because that narrows our pool down a little bit.
That eliminates the WNFL.
Yep. Is this player active right now?
This player is active in the NFL.
Is this player an offensive or defensive player?
Yes,
Yes or no
question?
questions.
Oh, is this player an offensive player?
Yes, they are an offensive player.
Do they play in the AFC?
They do not play in the AFC.
Do they play in the NFC North?
They do not play in the NFC North.
Do they play quarterback?
They do play quarterback.
Do they play quarterback in the NFC West?
They do play quarterback in the NFC West.
All right. So that's Brock Purdy, Geno Smith, Matt Stafford.
Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
Has this player appeared in a Super Bowl?
Let me double check.
Ooh, good question.
No, this player has not appeared in a Super Bowl.
I think since you had to check, I'm going to guess, is this player Geno Smith?
This player is not Geno Smith.
Is this player Kyler Murray?
This player is not Kyler Murray.
Is this
Okay, so it's one
player
of the
Josh
backups.
Dobbs?
This is the Pastronaut, Josh Dobbs.
Aww.
I was worried you guys didn't ask, is he a starter? So I thought you were going to go through all of the starters and.
Well, don't
Right.
worry. I'm kind of tapped into football,
He's kind of locked in.
particularly the MNFL.
Can't believe the NFL. This one, we are expanding beyond just active players.
There's a hint down.
Yeah, we love that.
That's going to be your hint. That's going to be your hint. We are expanding
And then we
beyond
just have the
active
default
players.
hint. The default
Yes.
is just
He is a guy. We're sticking in the MNFL.
All right.
Okay. Is it haha Clinton Dix?
No, it is not.
I like the snipe.
I had to
Is
try.
this player an offensive player?
This player is an offensive player.
Is this player in the Hall of Fame?
Let me double check.
They're
He is
not in the Hall of Fame.
He is not
Okay.
in the Hall of Fame.
Did they retire within the last 10 years?
I mean, yes, they did.
In their
It's offense.
career, were they typically associated with the NFC?
No, they were not.
Okay.
Did
So I
they
was-
win
I
a
was-
Super Bowl?
They did not win a Super Bowl.
Like my original thought was like we were going like Adrian Peterson or something, or like Jason Kelsey or something like that for like the recent ones, but clearly they're not NFC. So now I have to.
We should
pivot
get the
a little bit.
position down.
Yeah. Are they a wide receiver?
They are not a wide receiver.
Are they a running back?
They are a running back.
Okay.
All right. Retired within the last 10 years, primarily AFC, no ring.
Damn, you should have said OJ Simpson. That would have been really fun. If only he was within 10 years.
He retired from life within the last 10
he
years.
did.
Yes.
True.
Hmm.
I'm just trying to think of AFC teams. Did they ever finish a season in the top 5 of rushing yards?
Yes, they did.
Okay. So it's a good running back.
Did this player play for 2 or more franchises?
They did.
Is it Frank Gore?
It is not Frank
Damn.
Gore.
Is it
gonna
LaDainian
get it.
Tomlinson?
It is not LT. Didn't
He retired
LT? I would say he stayed a Charger most of the time, didn't he?
Yeah,
I can't remember.
mainly a Charger. And he retired like
Yeah.
15
But he
years
played,
ago.
I gave you the hint. He played for at least 2 or more teams.
I thought he played for another team.
I didn't think he did. I don't remember though. In all honesty, back to Kyle.
Oh, I don't like this one anymore.
This
This is tough. How many questions do we have left so that I don't just keep
You have
wasting
8
them on
questions.
random players?
you have 8 questions.
Okay, so it's a running back, primarily in the AFC. Multiple teams, top 5 rusher.
Retired within the last 10 years. You could ask me if he's known for different things.
Yeah,
You could try to
I
narrow
could.
down the team. You could go by division. You got options here.
yeah. It's just tough since we know they've been on multiple teams. Like I don't want to just say like, hey, were they like were they a Jacksonville Jaguar? Because that's just a waste of a guess.
You could ask me if they were a journeyman or if they were primarily known for one team.
Yeah,
That could help narrow that down.
true. Were they a journeyman?
No, they were not a journeyman.
So primarily one team in the AFC.
Mm-hmm.
Is this team in the AFC North or West?
You get one division.
Due north.
Yeah, AFC North.
No.
Okay. Are they in the
They are not.
AFC? Oh wait. Okay, so
Go ahead.
if we had 8, then so now we're down
You
to
have
6.
6 now. You have 6 questions.
Were they primarily in the AFC South?
Yes, they
Okay.
were.
All right. So Jags, Colts, Titans, Texans.
Oh, it's probably Chris Johnson.
It's not
Is
your
it Chris?
guess.
Is it Chris Johnson?
It is Chris Johnson.
Yeah,
CJ2K.
Who's that?
yeah. Titans.
One
running
of-
back.
Oh.
Electric 2009 season rushed for over 2,000 yards.
Yeah.
He's the guy that Greg Johnson said he's got running away from the cop speed.
Mhm.
In
Cover a couple
2009, I
mountains.
only focused on the Vikings.
That's fair.
He is one of the few to rush for 2,000 yards. His whole thing was he had insane burst and he had crazy top speed. If he made it past the D lineman,
He was gone.
You couldn't touch him. Basically, he was gone.
He was big too.
Spent 6 years with Tennessee. Spent 1 year after that with the Jets, and then 2 years with Arizona, where he barely played.
Yeah, he did nothing.
He had MVP votes his rookie year, his sophomore year. Again, he rushed for over 2,000 yards. He also won the Offensive Player of the Year. I believe he was also an All-Pro in 2009. Also,
Good for him.
my favorite player in my childhood. I loved Chris Johnson. CJ2K was electric.
I liked Larry Fitzgerald.
I also like Larry Fitzgerald. Minnesota boy. Loved that Cardinals team. It was just fun.
Mm-hmm.
I choked on air.
Happens.
So, not the strongest game, not your guys' strongest performance, but there's always room for improvement. I'd give you a C plus, B minus. I'll give you a B minus on that one. But speaking of things we don't know, this coming NFL season hasn't even come close to starting yet. And yet we've got sports organizations out here making predictions and power rankings already. The teams haven't even made off-season moves yet. Free agency hasn't started. And yet ESPN has now come out with their early NFL 2025 power rankings. So we're going to take a look at their work. It was compiled by about 80-ish of their writers and contributors, and how they had that many people working on this project, and this is the product they put out, I'll never know. But that's ESPN.
Two of those contributors are AI. One of them is Copilot. One of them is ChatGPT.
God. But we're going to go ahead. We're going to look at this list. We're going to see what our general reactions are, what the most egregious placements are here, because there's some pretty bad ones. We're going to look at the bottom of the barrel, the bottom 10 teams. Starting from 32, we have the Tennessee Titans at 32, the Giants at 31, then the Browns, the Jets at 29, the Raiders at 28, the Saints at 27, then it's the Jags, the Panthers, the Patriots, the Colts, and rounding out the bottom 10 is the Chicago Bears at 22. So Kyle, I want to start with you. Out of that bottom 10, what's your big takeaway?
My big question is, how the hell are the Browns not dead last? They don't have a quarterback. If they do have a quarterback, he's a sexual a predator, and he should not be playing the game of football. Even then, their number one player on the defensive side of the ball does not want to be there. Their number two defensive player on that side of the ball does not want to be there. No one wants to be there. No one wants to be in that organization. So how are they not in dead last? They don't have a cohesive roster. I think the only reason that they even get any brownie points is because Kevin Stefanski was a coach of the year, and obviously can rally a team that is, he can obviously rally a team, and he's a great leader for the organization. But if that's your only shiny spot, a guy who does not actually play the game of football, then you should be dead last. Truly, granted, the teams that are down there are also not good. But
it's all shitters down here.
Yeah, it's all bad. But I think that those organizations are more likely to make the right moves in this offseason to make them better than just dead last. Also, they had that last place schedule, so they have an opportunity to bounce back a lot higher because they're going to be playing bad teams too. I just don't think that the Browns have any semblance of an organization going into this year, at least at the moment. So even for a way too early, it should have been clear as day that the Cleveland Browns were in last place.
I agree that the Browns should be last, but I think I think the Saints are too high. I'll get into that later. I don't like how this is basically just the draft pick order, except moving the Patriots up, which I do agree with moving the Patriots up. Yeah, I don't think it's too egregious other than the Browns and the Saints in that area.
I want to be a little optimistic here, okay? Trying to lighten things up, trying to bring the mood.
I'll say the Titans are too low.
I think the Titans are going to suck ass. But here's the team. Here's the team that I'm trying to get a little optimistic on. And it may shoot me in the foot here. But second worst for the New York Giants, they have an opportunity to be maybe eighth worst, which is a big upgrade.
Yeah.
It all depends on what their quarterback situation is going to be. I think they're going to go with Shedeur Sanders. I think that whatever they have to do, I think they're locked in on getting Shedeur out to New York. And it's not like this Giants team is entirely deficient. They're not a full roster, but they're not a worse roster than the Titans or the Browns. Or even, they're not a worse roster than the Raiders. The Raiders have some great pieces. They have a great weapon in Brock Bowers. They have a great end in Max Crosby.
And that's it.
And that's it. And they have a nice stadium.
And they got a scrappy
That's
wide
it.
receiver named Hunter Renfrow.
Is he even still there?
Yeah, he
thought
is.
he
He just
was.
kind of sucks now.
Yeah.
He's
he fell
scrappy,
off.
though. He plays the game the right way.
I can
High
agree
IQ.
with that.
But I think this Giants team, I would put them maybe 26th instead of 31st. I think 31st is just a bit egregious with a team that we don't know how much they're going to suck. Because they could suck less. They could also be the worst team in the NFL if Shedeur and that offensive line can't get it together. We'll see. But 31 is a little pessimistic for me. Let's go ahead. Let's move on to the sort of middle of the pack. The middle 12 teams of this list before we get to the top 10. Coming in at 21, we've got the Arizona Cardinals. At 20, the Miami Dolphins. Then you've got the Falcons, the Cowboys, the Steelers at 17, the Bucks at 16, then a run of Seattle, Denver, San Francisco, the Rams at 12, and then Houston. Cameron, I'll head to you first on this one. In that middle section, is there anybody that stands out to you there?
I want to be a little more optimistic about the Falcons. I think if Kirk Cousins agrees, like, hey, I'll go home, even if they don't get all of their money back, like the dead cap hit wouldn't be as bad as keeping him on the roster. I think they've got some good pieces around Michael Penis. If they draft some defense, like they don't have very many picks, but if they can get a good defensive player in the draft, it would make a big difference.
The main team that stuck out to me was the Bucks. I just think that
Oh yeah, they should be higher.
They should be higher. I think that they definitely got underrated, and them being in the middle of generally the middle of the league is very generous to like the San Francisco 49ers and the couple teams that were right above them, like really from like 15 to 12. I think that the Bucks should be a top 12 team. They're kind of that bubble, like, they're going to make the playoffs. Like, they're going to be a good team. So I think that putting them at 16 is just wrong. Like, Baker had a great year. I know Mike obviously had a kind of push to get to 1,000, but they have a lot of great pieces on that defense. They have a huge O-line. Like, genuinely, I'm surprised that they're not, or I would be surprised if they're not a top 5 O-line this next year. So just like they are missing just like 2 to 3 little pieces that they can easily acquire in free agency or the draft to be solid playoff contenders, kind of like they were this year. So I think that 16 is just way too low.
Yeah, I would agree. This Bucks team, I mean, that division for the longest time has just kind of been theirs. So we'll see if anybody puts up a fight in there this year. Sure as hell not going to be the Saints. But I have one that I'm unsure about. I feel like they could either end up being a top 10 team or more likely they will be the worst in their division. And that is the Dallas Cowboys at 18.
It's all about Jerry.
It's all about Jerry. Jerry said last year that they were going to go all in for this season, and then they did nothing. So first off, I wonder if Jerry knows what all in means. Maybe it's an age disconnect thing.
Yeah.
He was talking about the shit in his diaper.
Mm-hmm. His depends. But I think this team, if this Dallas team gets back to what they were, they could be a 12 or 13 win team. Because that's what they were the past 3 years. But if this Dallas team continues on the trajectory they're on, not fixing the O-line, not establishing a run game, you still have Dak Prescott as your quarterback, who's not going to, most of the times, is not going to cost you games, but he's not going to win you games. He's not
Mm-hmm.
elite. He's a good starter.
I can't see the Giants being better than them.
I absolutely. If this team, if the floor falls out of the Dallas Cowboys, say Micah does not come back the same, and this Giants team, say Shador makes it work on the offense, this defense kind of picks it up a little bit, I could see them rivaling the Dallas Cowboys in that basement of like 6 or 7 wins.
Yeah, I mean, we can all agree it's going to be a 2-man race in that division.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Easily.
Between an elite, great quarterback who's proven he can do it at an elite level, and also Jalen Hurts.
Mm-hmm.
I knew you were going to do that.
Yeah. What can I say? I don't like him.
He's
a tush push. He's a tush push merchant.
I get. I mean, we already had this conversation.
Yeah. So let's go ahead. Let's move on to the top 10. Start rounding out number 10, the Minnesota Vikings. Then you've got Cincinnati at 9, the Chargers at 8, Green Bay at 7, the Commies at 6, and then your top 5 consists of Baltimore, Philly, Detroit, Buffalo, and Kansas City. So Kyle, I want to come to you first on this top 10. How we feeling?
Like, I mean, obviously, again, you all know us. We're all Vikings fans. So it's easy for me to say that the Lions and the Packers are too high, and that the Vikings are not the number 1 team for the NFC North. But truly, like, the main egregious part here is the Lions at 3. They lost to the Commanders in the playoffs, and they lost their offensive coordinator, their defensive coordinator, all the key assistants around them. So the only, like, as far as I know, the main coach that they retained is Dan Campbell. Not that Dan Campbell is incapable of being a head coach in any capacity, but it's definitely going to be a rocky year for the Lions because they're going to have to change their whole scheme. They're on both sides of the ball. They're going to have to adjust to Dan Campbell stepping back into the play calling role, depending on who their coordinators end up being. But obviously, they have a roster built. They have a foundation around that game of football, and it may not stay that way going into this year. So it for me, it's hard to say that the Lions are going to be the number 1 team in the NFC again because there's so many question marks still. Like I see them taking a step back. They're not going to be another 15-win team. It just can't happen. I don't see why they're so high. And then for the Packers, it's not going to take me as long to say that I fucking hate them. They are not better than us. No one on their team is worth anything. The Vikings are way better. Vikings to the Super Bowl, skull.
I feel like the Lions are a little high. I would definitely put Philly above them in the NFC. But I still think they're the favorites to win the division. I do think the Vikings are 9 spots too low. But the most egregious placement to me was the Chargers. I don't think they are worthy of that 8 spot at all. I know they have a lot of cap room, but you kind of have to use that cap room before you rank them that high. They very well can fuck it up. I do not see them being a top 10 team next season.
I'd like to call out the Cincinnati Bengals. I think they should be a bit higher. I think they're better than the Chargers.
Yeah.
They're not a better defense than the Chargers, but any team that has Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, and the word came out, I think it was today, that the Bengals are they're not afraid to use their second franchise tag on T. Higgins. So that wide receiver core could still be kept in place. Now it comes to, do they got to pay Trey Hendrickson? And they're going to pay Jamar Chase. But I think any offense with that core, we saw them slinging it after they get out of those slow starts that they always have. But I would take that in one game. I'd take that Bengals team over the Chargers. I'd take them over the Packers. I think it'd be a shootout with the Commies. And they always play the Ravens close, except for one game last year where they kind of got blown out. But I think they beat the Ravens last year as well. They split the series, didn't they? I believe they did. The Baltimore won their second matchup, but I believe the Bengals won their first.
Yes, that is correct.
So I think you could very easily move this Bengals team up from 9 to 6, maybe. I think we got to put some more respect on Joe Shiesty.
Yeah.
I think the tough part for me with that is like they've been 9-8 for 2 years and they've missed the playoffs for 2 years in a row with this exact same roster, other than Mixon leaving in the offseason with their best running back leaving and they stayed stagnant. So granted, I see them finally stringing some things together because they're probably tired of this complacency that they've been in. And I can see them taking a step up. I don't see them taking a near top 5 team step up personally.
Sure. You know, when it comes to being way too early, it can be a little bit of a curse, but sometimes you just gotta get your takes out there. That because the earlier you get a take, if you're correct, that's big payoff. And we're betting men. We're betting men here on this podcast, and
Our takes have been pretty good.
Our takes have been great. Just ignore all the ones that didn't work out.
Well, yeah, but
Exactly.
we got a lot more than expected correct.
Yeah, we're 100% on our takes that worked out. So
Exactly.
Yes.
of the takes that were correct, we are 100% accurate. So let's throw some more out there. Some way too early NFL predictions. I want to throw out there. Every year, there's a team that goes worst to first. And nobody ever sees it coming. This year, I think the closest we had was the Commanders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I've got a take here. Worst to first. This is already an awful division. They picked it up a little at the end of the year, and technically they were tied for last. So I think the Carolina Panthers are winning the NFC South.
I can see that.
Winning?
That was almost my take.
I think Bryce Young continues his development. I loved what I saw out of Jalen Coker at the end of the year, their rookie wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
And now they've got their picks. They can build around this team. I think Bryce Young is developing. He needs a true number one, which there's certainly options here. This is a really deep running back class as well, so they can pick up, if they're not happy with Chuba Hubbard, they can pick up a
They
new
just
option.
re-signed him to a
they
bigger
did?
contract.
If they can pick up a third down scat back, maybe someone who's more like an out of the backfield wheel route catch and run kind of guy. But they've got options, and I don't believe in the NFC South.
That's valid.
So that's my take. Cameron?
Yeah, so I mentioned it earlier, another NFC South team. I think the Saints are going to have the worst record in the league. They are in the worst position right now, probably of any team. They have the least amount of cap by a lot. They have so much dead money. Their roster is very mediocre at best, and they just keep getting older. I can't name a single good young player on their team. You could say Chris Olave. Guess how many touchdowns he had this year? It was less than 2. Yeah, they just kind of seem fucked in all aspects, and I can't see them being any better.
Yeah, I could definitely see this being the year they have to pay the piper. All of those wacky-ass contracts. The Taysom Hill contract where it was like, remember that was like $160 million, $40 million guaranteed? So
Yeah, it was way too big.
Stupid. A stupid contract. They've been delaying having to deal with the cap for like 5 years now. I think they might be these next like 2 years have to be the ones where they pay up.
Yeah, because they were okay with being the worst cap situation in the league when they had Peyton and
Breeze.
Yeah.
But I don't think Kellen Moore and Derek Carr are the answer in the Bayou.
I think Kellen Moore is going to be a great coach, just not with this team in this situation.
Oh.
Yeah,
Kyle?
the Saints have to trust the process for the next couple of years with Kellen Moore. I don't want them to get too trigger happy on firing him. This is going to be a wild one. So I'm going to warn you right now. Strap in. I think that the New York Jets get relegated to the UFL. Something goes wrong in New York. They decide to sell the team to the UFL, and Roger Goodell is like, "Oh my God, I need to do something." there's this really cool stadium that I go to like 8 times a year anyways in London. So there's going to be a team in the NFL that is based out of London starting the year after next year, and they introduce it this year. And it's going to be like the Gooners or something. It's
They're
just
going
like
to
the
be
soccer teams.
miserable on plane rides.
Yes, they
They're
will.
going to have
Yeah,
to
that's
fly
good.
so much.
Yeah.
They
They'll-
will.
you know what they'd probably
and
do?
Goodell does not care.
They'd probably do a like you do a 6-game road stretch at the start of your season, then you play like a shit ton of your home games. They just have them on like huge stretches, so
And
they
then if they
wouldn't
were in
have
the
to keep
playoffs,
making
they
that.
would have to do like a neutral site in the U.S. or something.
Yeah, maybe like a neutral site game, but they give like advanced sale and stuff to London fans.
All right,
Yep.
now that we got all these logistics worked out, I can see that happening.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good take.
Yeah.
Roger, give us a call. We just need
Yep.
a small stake in the team, and we'd be happy to lend these ideas to you.
Yeah. I had a couple more takes.
Oh yes,
If they
yes.
panned out,
Please.
if they panned out, I think it would be really cool. My first one is that the Cleveland Browns will trade a 2nd-round pick and a 4th-round pick to the Baltimore Ravens for kicker Justin Tucker.
Hey, they need a kicker.
Second one, also Cleveland Browns related. I think that Deshaun Watson is going to rupture his ACL for a 3rd time. And
Yeah.
both of those, I think it would be really funny if it panned out. So I'm calling them now.
Well, now that they're out in the ether, we can get credit for when they come true, and if they don't come true, we'll forget they ever happened. That's the win-win.
We'll
It's a win-win.
We'll scrub the
really.
episode. Yeah.
Yeah. If this episode is not on the air in a while, it means that these takes were all rancid. But I believe in us as Bisportuals. I think we've got some good takes.
Yeah.
Let's
Oh,
go
yeah.
ahead. Let's go ahead and move on to the sports league that's actually still playing games. Not for a couple days, but we are now firmly into the back half of the NBA season. The All-Star break is just ending. We just finished All-Star weekend like we talked about earlier. And the starting rotations have kind of been established for teams now. They're kind of finding their way, except for injury circumstances. Like, for example, Minnesota has 4 of what would have been their starting players out. But we kind of get what these teams are now and their rotations and whatnot. You look at teams, remember last year, the Suns, their whole problem was that they didn't have a real point guard. They didn't have anybody to facilitate their offense. And it's come back again and again that a real point guard to play make and be active on the court is very important. There's some other traits that are important when it comes to point guards. Specifically, how hot are they?
Yeah.
That's why we are going to play a game called NBA Mate, Date, or Hate. I will give you a starting point guard in the NBA this season, and you are going to tell me whether you would mate with them, date them, or if you hate them. We love rhyming here on Bisportuals. It's a big rhyme
Just a little bit.
theme. Just a bit. Just a tinge.
Bisportuals rhymes with my slortuals.
Dude,
I missed that one. Cameron's
you're
on
a
a roll.
killer. Yeah.
Hmm.
Rock star.
Do you rap? Freestyle. Cameron, freestyle for us right now. Kyle, rap for me.
Boom, psh.
Hey, big bitches on my dick. I don't know what to think.
Immediately lying. Just out, off rip. Lies.
Dude.
I can rap. I got out more than I thought I would.
I believe there's room to grow, and that's the important thing. But we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna hop right in. NBA, mate, date, or hate. We're gonna start off one of the greatest point guards of all time, Steph Curry. Cameron, mate, date, or hate?
Well, I can't mate or date him since he's a cuck, and I'm not really into that. I'm not into cuckolding another man. And I don't really want to hook up with his wife either, so I'm gonna have to put him firmly in the hate category.
I forgot about that. You think
And also, yeah,
Steph the only NBA player to use the cuck chair when
he
he's
does
on
use the
when he
cuck
travels?
chair, and he also uses the cuck chair when he protests low-income housing in his neighborhood.
I said something pretty similar to you. Just with in terms of his takes on low income housing, I can't stand for his politics. So it's a hate for me. I would take him on a date, and then I would get really upset like halfway through, and I would like throw a drink in his face, and then like get kicked out. So I would get a free food out of it from him just to like spite him. But it's a hate date. You know what I'm saying? Like it's for
Yeah.
my gain, not for our gain.
Okay. Yeah, I think we're 3 for 3 on this one. I think like if it were pure physicality, I think if he's dateable. I think he's dateable. Yeah, I couldn't mate with him, so the takes turn him from a date to a hate.
I'm also going to
It's
come
got
out
to
and
be that
say
way.
it. This Slam photo shoot that he just released, where he's just like in the gray sweatsuit and like
Awful.
his shoes. Yeah, he lost so much aura with
That
that shoot.
was so bad. That was so bad. How do you fuck up a Slam cover? They do so much to make you look cool on Slam covers. How do you fuck that up? I don't know. Let's go ahead. Let's go from the west to the east. Pacers point guard Tyrese Halliburton. Kyle? Mate, date or hate?
I mean, he's a Olympic gold medalist, even though he did not participate in getting that Olympic gold medal. Clearly he's a champion caliber person. I also think he's pretty cute. So I'm gonna go with date on this one. Again, I just want to take it easy, take it slow. See where it progresses.
Yeah. Okay. Cam?
I also think he's pretty cute. I'm just going to go with mate, though. I'm not going to go with date because I think he is too preoccupied on trying to become Caitlin Clark's boyfriend.
He has a fiance.
Yeah, and so does she, but he still definitely has a crush on her.
I mean, with that clean of a 3-point shot, who doesn't?
True. And
She
it's
is
like
silky
Starcross
from range.
lovers. Iowa State. Like, it just, lovers that
They're
can't
both
be.
they're both Indiana, but
Yeah,
they're in different leagues.
the WNBA versus the MNBA.
Yeah, critical. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with date here. I think he's a cutie. And he seems like a loyal guy. Been chilling in Indiana when Indiana was dog. So I think dateable would be my take on Tyrese Halliburton. Now let's go to one that I think we can all agree with. This is the one, the only bite Minnesota Mike Conley. Cameron,
Mate,
give it to me, Mike Conley.
Sorry, I'm jumping over you, mate. I want to mate him so bad.
That is not what I'm going to say. I'm going to say date.
Yeah.
He is statistically the nicest guy in the league. He has never gotten a flagrant foul. He has won teammate of the year so many times. Why would you not want to date him?
Yeah. This dude's tossing assists. He's facilitating offense like he would facilitate a date. He takes all the pressure off of your shoulders. You can just go and do what you do best.
He seems like an excellent communicator.
I want to marry him. Mike, this is for you. Will you marry me? Just everything. I want to do it all with Mike.
We are an incredibly pro Mike Conley podcast.
Yes. Cameron, is it true that for a significant period of time your phone lock screen was indeed Mike Conley?
Yes, it was actually a slideshow of Mike Conley, and then it was a baby girl edit of Mike Conley that I made.
That's good. That shows you how we feel about Mike. Minnesota Mike King. Now let's go to someone a bit more controversial here. We've got, out of Oklahoma City, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, also known as Shit Gay Ass. Cameron, I'm going to start with you. SGA, where are we feeling?
I'm going to mate with him. He is an attractive motherfucker. You saw that Skims photo shoot. You say Donovan Mitchell out-meated him? No, they went meat for meat.
They did not. It was not even close.
They went meat for meat. I would mate him.
Okay.
He's an attractive-looking motherfucker.
Kyle, I think I know what your take here is.
I think everybody at home knows what my take is here. I hate this guy so much. Just even before this game concept was an idea, I hated this man. I will hate this man until I die. If there's 1 million haters, I am one of them. If there are 10 haters, I am one of them. If there's one hater, I am him. If there are no haters, I am dead.
That's a very enthusiastic take. I think I'm going to have to side with Kyle here, though. I don't think he's that cute. I just don't.
I don't get it.
I don't think he's that attractive. If he were more attractive,
it would
absolutely.
Skims photo shoot?
I did, and it wasn't a turn on to me. I think if he had a cuter face then I would fuck him. But
He's got
he
that
doesn't.
ASAP Rocky look.
Exactly. No, that's not doing it. That's not doing it. So he is a hate. He is a hate from me. It's got to be. Let's go ahead. We'll move on to the white boy. Well, one of the white boys, the big white boy, the one, the only new Los Angeles Laker, Luka Doncic. Kyle, are you mating, dating, or hating?
I think I'm gonna go date. He seems like a very loyal guy. He seems like someone that can hold down a household. Um, he's very maybe like emotionally in tune with himself and those around him. So I feel like he would be just someone that like the relationship would be very, very symbolic. It's something that I aspire to do. So yeah, I'm gonna say date for Mr. Doncic.
I'm gonna say hate. I hate Luka Doncic. I think he's fat. He is uncoordinated. He is not committed to conditioning, which means he cannot be committed to a relationship. He might have had sex with my wife, and I think I would rather have a 32-year-old stick bug over him.
Yeah, no, Cameron, you're dead on this one. You're dead on.
What?
This is a hate. This is a hate. This is absolutely a hate. He can't commit to taking care of his body. Why can he commit to me? Okay.
Exactly.
And I don't know what about him makes you think that I would want to have sex with him.
True.
We couldn't even communicate effectively. His English is so friggin' broken, and I don't speak Slovenian.
I'd learn it for him. Luca, you know where I'm at.
I was playing the character of Nico Harrison, for those who couldn't tell.
And you play it well. Maybe Nico had a point. Maybe he was looking at it like a relationship.
Cameron, I'm starting a couple hashtags that are similar to the Nico Harrison hashtags, but for you.
Awful.
No, we're not going to repeat that on air.
No.
If you know, you know.
Let's go ahead. Let's move on to maybe a less divisive topic. We've got Jose Alvarado. Cameron, how are we feeling about Grand Theft Alvarado?
I like the way he plays basketball, but I am going to say hate. His dreads are way too thin and tiny and ugly. He's just not a good-looking dude.
Okay, Kyle.
I also said hate. He's like a Pat Bev type of player for me. I hate like when he's playing against my team, but it's fun to like watch him if he were on my team. And then in general, like there's more nights than not where it looks like he doesn't take care of himself just like hygienically. And I'm not saying that he doesn't, but like he's too scruffy. He's too just like not like musty. And I hate to throw that on him, but like just a general vibe appearance, it kind of seems like it. And I don't want to be around that. Too.
I'd give this one a. I'm thinking it's not a hate. It's not a hate for me, and it's not a date. This is a curiosity. This is like a one-time thing where it's like, you know what? I'd give him a chance. I'd taste the platter. It's like I'm not gonna turn down an hors d'oeuvre if it's offered. I want to see what's up.
Ryan, there's like one rule of life, and it's don't stick your dick in crazy. He plays basketball like a crazy man.
Just because he gets stocks? What do you want, Jose Alvarado? Think of the ingenuity that it takes to come up with just standing in the corner, hiding from the inbounder, and then going and getting that steal. Think of the
ingenuity he can bring to the bedroom.
True. Think of the creativity he could introduce. I want to see.
It's your life, man.
It's a scouting. I'm just doing my job. I'm scouting.
Yeah.
I'm putting together the scouting report. Okay. I'm doing my job. It would be irresponsible of me to not. That's my take. Let's go ahead to Ja Morant. Ja Morant, Mr. Run and dunk point guard. Kyle, I saw a little head shake. How are we feeling?
This is a hate for me. Specifically in the bedroom, he seems like a premature ejaculator because he can never finish what he's supposed to when he's dunking. He never makes it.
Well, if he can never finish, then he has ED.
Oh, okay, my bad. He has ED. So it just seems like it would be a mess in the bedroom. And then also, I just don't think he's attractive. And again, his off-court antics is not something that I want to settle down with. So this is just a hate for me.
Cameron?
I'm gonna say date for this one. I just gut feeling. I feel like he would be a pretty protective boyfriend, and that would be nice.
What would he protect you with?
Just in general, I think he's gonna be a pretty protective guy. I can't tell you specifically why. I can't pinpoint any one reason, but you
can pinpoint the second reason. The second reason.
Yeah. Well, I gotta say this is a hate for me. I just think irresponsible. Doesn't can't contribute to a team. And relationships are teams. And I don't want to fuck him. So, over
Socrates up in here.
Damn right. All right. We got two heaters for the last ones. Okay. We've got Emmanuel Quickly. Cameron, give me your take.
I don't know too much about him off the court. But I think he's kind of cute looking. I'll go with date. He's a good basketball player.
Okay, Kyle.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Nothing like particularly stands out about him in any way, shape, or form. Like he's just a quality basketball player. He's a quality guy. Like it seems like he's got a pretty quality face. So there's nothing abhorrently wrong with him, and nothing like outrageously awesome about him. So it's like someone in my ballpark, I could say. So yeah, date.
Look. This is the cutest guy on this list. I think Quickly
Mike
is...
Conley.
No disrespect to Mike Conley. This is the cutest guy on this list. Quickly, date. Every time. Date.
Wow.
Well, we're 3 for 3 on that.
Yeah.
But I stand more in Kyle's boat than Ryan's.
Hey, and that's an okay opinion to have. Finally, we're going to head over to Philadelphia. Tyrese Maxey. Kyle, how are we feeling about Mr. Maxey?
This is a mate. He's a very cute guy for me. I like his smile. Like whenever he's just like grinning ear to ear, it's fun to see, and especially when he's playing, it's almost like his smile elevates his game. So I just want to imagine what that's like in the bedroom.
Yeah, I agree. I also put down mate for this one. I think he's kind of cute. He's a happy little guy. I don't think I would want to date him. I don't know if you guys remember, but back in like 2021 or 2022, he was at the All-Star game with Scotty Barnes, and Scotty Barnes tried to hug him, and he was like, "No, get off me!" And it's just
not
like
a big PDA guy.
Not a big PDA guy, and I think sometimes it can be nice. That's why I'm just gonna go with mate for Tyrese Maxey. Also, he does get mogged by his teammate Jared McCain.
True.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to. I'm in the same boat here. I'm going with mate on this. My reason is because I think he's attractive, but long term, I don't know. At the end of the day, I'd have to say Tyrese. It's me or the Philadelphia 76ers because I can't be that close to Joel Embiid.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
And I think he's a career-oriented man. I think he'd pick the Sixers. So I'd love it for while it's there, but I don't think a relationship could blossom.
So you're just gonna hook up with him and like stick your dick in his ass or something?
Other way around, probably. I don't know. He is an NBA player. So.
Oh my god.
But hey, we take what we can get. So, going on, news in the NBA. Just before the All-Star break, in his final game, Kevin Durant finally hit 30,000 points in the NBA. 30,000 points scored. A significant milestone. I mean, 30,000, it's difficult. It's difficult to do. You have to be an elite offensive player to reach that landmark. But people have started attaching this phrase to Kevin Durant now, which is, Kevin Durant, top 10 all-time player. Kevin Durant, top 10 all-time, KD. Which I don't know if a lot of people actually believe. I don't know if that's a take that people truly have. And so to prove or to come up with the answer to that question, we have gone ahead, the sports experts that we are, and all three of us have created our top 10 NBA players of all time. We're going to go ahead. We're going to share them with each other. I have a couple of honorable mentions. Cameron, I believe you do as well.
Yeah.
So we'll
There's
start
only
with
10
those.
NBA
But
players.
but then we're going to go from 10 to 1, and we're going to share our list of the top 10 NBA players of all time. Cameron, would you like to get started with your honorable mentions?
Yeah, I have Hakeem Olajuwon, Shaquille O'Neal, and Jerry West.
Wait, what?
Shaq off the list is a take, for sure.
Also KD, honorable mention. Yeah, he's not on my list.
I'll tell you up front, I don't have KD on my list, and I'm not giving him an honorable mention. You know how I feel about KD. My honorable mentions, I got to throw out, quick shout out George Mikan, old head. Dirk Nowitzki, the greatest Euro to ever play basketball. And then
Jokic is getting there.
Jokic is getting there, but not yet. Not yet.
I would argue.
It's arguable, for sure. But I would take Dirk. I'd still take Dirk. And then you got to mention his name because of the winning, but I didn't have room for Bill Russell on this list. So Bill Russell is an honorable mention for me. With that, we've got all our honorable mentions out the way. Let's go ahead, jump right in. At number 10, I have one of Cameron's honorable mentions. I have Hakeem Olajuwon at number 10. One of the best defensive players of all time. Number 1 in blocks, 600 more than the second place blocks leader. And FYI, that second place is Dikembe Mutombo. So one of the best defensive players of all time. Plus, the Dream Shake is a must-have for any good offensive bag nowadays. It was killer in the day. I think it talks about how he got drafted before Michael Jordan, and nobody criticizes the pick. I think that talks about how great Hakeem is. But Cameron, I want to hear who you've got at number 10.
I don't think you guys are going to like my list very much. At number 10, I have Kobe, Don't Ask What I Was Doing in a Colorado Hotel Room on July 1st, 2003, Bryant.
I will say, I also don't have Kobe as high as many people put him. But that's a take. Kyle, who do you have at number 10?
I have the guy that has been honorably mentioned and honorably left off the honorable mentions in Kevin Durant. Just again, I think that the impact that he has, the resume that he has, truly, he is. I look at my top 10 players, and it's just kind of a theme that you could say, and it's guys that revolutionized the game. KD revolutionized the game in our current generation. People wanted to be like Kevin Durant. Kinda.
I
fucking
agree.
snake.
I'm not denying that. I'm not denying
He's a
that.
fucking snake.
You
I'm
can
not
say
denying
that, Kyle. I completely agree with your argument. I totally see that.
And the rest of my list will kind of prove through that.
I just don't. I can't get over Shaq not in your top 10, Cam.
Yeah, that's still
crazy.
That's still fucked
That's
up.
crazy to me. That's
I've
wild.
got 10 better players.
I don't think there are, but this is your list. This is my list. We're off to a wild start here, which is great. Love it. So at number 9, I have the second greatest point guard of all time, Steph Curry.
Ooh.
I have him at number 9. Kyle, who's your number 9?
My number 9 is Wilt Chamberlain. Again, a revolutionary of the game. There's some argument here that maybe
footage.
he.
Show me the footage. Show me the footage. I need to see the footage.
I have him quite a bit higher.
Show me the footage.
There's probably a little bit of recency bias in my list as well, but Wilt is just obviously a generational, arguably a lifetime talent. His name will never leave the greats of basketball.
Show me the footage.
Stupid.
I need to see it.
Argument.
I need to see it.
Your cock.
No, not on the podcast, silly. You gotta wait for that. That's on the Patreon that we haven't started yet.
Next week.
Such
Cameron?
a dumb argument, Ryan. There's
It's
many
not a
people who would have had to fake that for that to happen.
It's not a real take. I think it's interesting though that we do have footage of random shit from the 20s, but nobody had any footage of the 100-point game. I just think it's interesting.
There was some footage. There's just not the full game.
I just think it's interesting.
But
you
the
know?
footage
I
that
think it's
is remaining is in
I'm
the
just
U.S.
I'm just asking
National
questions.
Library.
Hey, I'm just asking questions, okay?
I'll get to him later, but for number 9, I agree with you, Ryan. I have Del Curry Jr. He revolutionized the game, as Kyle was saying. Best 3-point shooter of all time.
Yeah, no question about it. Yeah. All right, let's go on. Number 8, moving down this list. This guy, something deep inside me wanted to put him a little bit higher, but I think I can't put him above most of these other players. But I love this guy. At number 8, I've got Tim Duncan. I think Tim Duncan, elite.
Kyle, are you ready to say the phrase on 3? 3, 2.
You have no idea how
good Tim Duncan was.
He's in my top 10. He's the best power forward of all time. That's not a debatable point. He's the best forward of all time. I just can't put him above any of these other players. But Cameron, who's sitting at your 8?
Number 8, I have 11-time NBA champion, one of the best defensive players to ever touch a basketball. 11 championships in 14 years. Give me Bill Russell. Rest in peace.
Yeah. Rest in peace. Can't be mad at that. Kyle?
This is probably a player that is nowhere near either of your lists. I said the big ticket, Kevin Garnett. Again, revolutionizing the game of basketball because he made people want to play basketball in the state of Minnesota. He's also just a huge trash talker. I think the best trash talker of all time.
No.
Yes.
No, we'll get to the best trash talker of all time because my next guy is the best trash talker of all time.
Are you going to say Kobe is a better trash talker than KG?
No. Fuck no.
Okay.
KG is 2.
KG made grown men cry in an NBA game. Like,
don't worry. You're going to hear
Larry Bird is a better trash talker?
Absolutely I am.
At least I can agree with the ranking of Larry Bird. I can't agree with the reason why.
KG top 10 is a wild fucking take.
Don't care. Don't care.
He's like top 20, I'd say.
Top 10.
But he's
8.
Not a top 10
He's
player.
8.
And you did not eat with this.
Fuck you.
All right, shall we move on to 7?
Yeah.
All right.
It sounds like we have some agreement at number 7.
Yeah, so at 7, I just said it. I said Larry Bird. I believe Larry Bird. I mean, the rivalry, that Larry Bird was one half of the reason that basketball still exists today. The Larry Magic competition in the 70s saved the game. I think Larry Bird could be higher if he didn't cripple his back repaving his mother's driveway.
Yeah.
But when he was at his peak, there were few, if any, better in the game than him. He was a monster. He'd tell you exactly what he was going to do, and then he'd do it on your head, and he'd sink it. There was nothing you could do. It's great. Cameron, do we have some agreement here?
Yeah, I also have Larry Bird at number 7. One of the best 3-point shooters of his time. I think people who can't realistically see a guy like that being that good of a basketball player, just look at Nikola Jokic. Jokic, you're like, how did some of those shots go in? How is he making these shots? It was the same thing with Larry Bird. He was an elite scorer for his time, and he could just like shoot from anywhere, like the most like off-kilter shot, and it would just somehow go in like magic, which is not who I'm talking about, but yeah, Larry Bird at 7.
All right, Kyle?
We all had the white boy at 7.
I see the argument for him being higher.
We all had the white boy.
Yep. All of it, like,
3.
I can't put him over any of the other people that like come up on this list. Unfortunately, I'm gonna, we talk about retrospective a lot on this podcast, and we alluded to Magic a couple times in this conversation, and I regret to inform both of you that Magic is nowhere on my list.
What?
Yeah, we could call it an honorable mention after the fact, and it's maybe
Zoink,
a poor
Scoobs.
omission. It's maybe a poor omission on my part.
Fucking awful.
Well, yeah, I mean, you have a bigger reaction than me because Michigan State bias, but
Fair point.
True.
Best player out of Michigan State ever, but
I just spoiler for the rest of my list, but yeah, I kind of realized that as we were talking, like, oh shit, I kind of forgot about him. Whoops.
Magic not on the list.
You
But
bum.
three-way tie.
You don't have
Larry
Shaq on your
Bird
list.
sitting at 7.
You don't have Shaq.
Yeah.
We'll get to him.
You guys both have Shaq higher?
Yes.
We'll get to Shaq. All right. On to number 6. I have the other part of that 70s rivalry. Number 6, gimme Magic Johnson. Electric playmaker, revived the sport of basketball. It was dying before Magic and Bird came in. I think he beats Bird on the longevity argument of it. He played the game for longer, and if Bird had not been crippled by the end of his career, maybe these rankings get reversed, but I also do have to give a little bit of a Michigan State shout out. One of the best Spartans, if not the best Spartan to ever come out of Michigan State. So Magic is at my number 6.
Yeah, I know you're going to throw it to Kyle next, but I'm going to jump in here because he's also at my number 6. I don't know if it's fair to say that he really had that much longevity because he did also go out shorter than he should have because of, a little thing called AIDS. Yeah, so that's our third spot that we have in agreement.
Truly.
Well, not between all of us.
Us
no, between
Cameron
me and Ryan.
Cameron.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, some of us put effort into this list, and then Kyle tossed together names he fucking knew because he left off Magic fucking Johnson. But go ahead.
Again.
Give me your 6.
At least it's another Laker guard for you. I have Kobe Bean Bryant at number 6. Again, we talk about influence in my list a lot, and a lot of people were influenced by Kobe Bryant, specifically that one lady in Colorado. But just
so many people were inspired to at least cheat on their wives, at most rape another woman.
Exactly. But in terms of basketball, obviously he is just a key contributor to ISO basketball in the modern age. The bag that he had, the maybe more of the selfishness and the ego that came with that, but actually backing up that ego, three-peat, just everything, one without Shaq. Again, like he was a very complete player. And he inspired a lot of people to play the game of basketball in a specific way. And again, it kind of revolutionized the game. So that's where I have him at my 6.
All right. I just can't get over no Shaq on the list, Cameron. And then no Magic on the list, both of you.
There's too many Lakers. There's too many people that play for the Los
Angeles.
There are a lot of Lakers on my list, to be fair.
Shaq's prime was not very long. It was great, but there were greater primes and there were longer primes.
There were not. We'll get into this.
I have a greater prime coming up on my list that I don't know if you have on your list.
Number 5, I have who Kyle had at 6. I have Kobe Bryant at 5. Like Kyle said, influential in the game of basketball, how kids in the 2000s grew up. I mean, we still say, if you're going to throw something in the garbage can, what do you say? Kobe.
James.
But I just can't put him above some of these other players on here. I think he's elite. I know a lot of people have him in like the top 3. I can't see that conversation. He's not a top 3 player of all time to me. I think that's the nostalgia coming in a little bit, but I think the influence he had and the dominance and competitive spirit he had in the game, Mamba mentality was real. That's why he's sitting at 5 for me. Since actually, I'd like to throw it to Kyle this time before Cameron jumps in. Kyle, who do you have at your number 5?
I have the big fundamental, Tim Duncan, the greatest power forward of all time. Again, revolutionary to the game of basketball. Just the way that he played the game was not like simple. It was just elite. Everything he did was calculated. He had a great time playing the game of basketball. He was, a floor general at the power forward spot. So everything he did was just great. And you can't deny the championships. You can't deny the legacy that he left in San Antonio. So, again, influence, everything. Tim Duncan.
At my number 5, I've got the big fundamental, the greatest power forward of all time, Tim Duncan. Yeah, he was just so good for so long. He was so good at every little thing. He's one of the best floor raisers and ceiling raisers the game has ever seen. He won 5 championships. He took a couple from LeBron. I he's just one of the most complete careers in basketball.
Yeah, I can't argue. I know I put him at 8, but he is the greatest 4 to ever play basketball. He is. I can't argue. I can't argue with your placements there. All right, let's move on to number 4. Number 4, I have the Big Diesel, Shaquille O'Neal, at my number 4 spot. There has never been, in his time, a more dominant player on an NBA court. Never. You had to change how you constructed your roster just to have bodies to foul Shaquille O'Neal. You had to. There's the story. I don't remember when Shaq told it, but there's the story of Shaq when he was complaining about all of these hack-a-Shaq calls, and he went to David Stern, who was the commissioner at the time, and he said, "If I keep getting these calls, I'm going to start throwing punches. I'm going to get flagrants. It's not going to be pretty." And then David Stern said, "Shaq, you come in here complaining to me. I have 29 teams complaining about you because you are just too big and too strong. You could not stop Shaq in the day. That is that is the reason that he is here. Yes, we have to acknowledge Celtics Shaq exists, but peak Shaquille O'Neal, there was not a more dominant player in the NBA. Cameron, I want to throw it to you for your number 4.
My number 4 is also a player who is incredibly dominant. I think he was more dominant than Shaq in his prime. In fact, I think Shaq is number 3. I think Jokic currently has a more dominant offensive style of play than Shaq. He does everything out there. At number 4, I have Wilt Chamberlain. How can you say that there is a player more dominant than him? His stats were insane. I know he only won a couple of championships because he was playing against Bill Russell, who had a dynasty around him, and then also a player who I have above him on this list. I get that his competition wasn't at the standard that it is now, but it's not like those players were plumbers. I think that argument is overblown. He was still playing against real athletes, and he was just dropping insane numbers on their head. He averaged 50 points and 25 rebounds in a single season. I believe he won MVP as a rookie. I could be wrong about that. He dropped 100 points in the game. We already talked about that. See, the footage argument is stupid. It is in the fucking U.S. National Library. There would have to be so many people to lie about that. And also, if you have seen the cartoon Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, one of my favorites as a kid, there's a character based off of Wilt, so I've always had a little bit of a bias towards him.
I don't want to fully discredit the strength of competition argument because no, they weren't plumbers, but you cannot compare the average quality of NBA player today to what it was back then.
No,
I think Wilt would be great
I still
in the
think
NBA
it was
today.
a more dominant. I still think
good.
it was a more dominant prime than Shaq.
I think because of the average level of competition he was going up against, I think it's Shaq. I still think Wilt in the take. I can't remember who said it, but great players are great in any era. So I think Wilt would be good in today's basketball, just like I think Shaq would be dominant in Wilt's era of basketball. I agree, but Wilt was better for longer too. I don't think he was better against better competition. That's my take. But Kyle, your number 4 spot.
Yeah. For me, I think the qualifier for like dominant here, and maybe a word that we're missing in this conversation, is physically dominant. That's why Shaq is at my 4. He is the most physically dominant player. Wilt was obviously the most like statistically dominant player, and again, like all the metrics and all the awards. He was just
bullying people. I know there's not like a ton of footage, but you had to have seen some. He was just running through people.
Yes, absolutely. But the virality, like the physicality that Shaq brought to the game.
Did you see what he did to Dudley? We watched it together.
Yes, we did. He
put his nuts on his shoulder.
No, but I don't think it's fair to discount Wilt as not being physically dominant.
I'm not saying
it's not that he's not, but he wasn't to the level of Shaq.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, Shaq broke what, like 17 backboards and
I believe it was
like
4.
fast.
Yeah.
So yes, again, just and then you can't deny the winning. You can't deny the dynasty. You can't deny Shaq's prime. It was just, again, so fantastic, so influential. Again, because people were watching basketball. People saw Shaq do what he did, and they're like, "What the fuck is going on?" Like putting butts in seats, getting people to watch the game. Again, influence. He's even influencing the game after this point. Obviously, again, that doesn't qualify for this argument of actual basketball players, but you still have to recognize the fact that Shaq is a household name. He's been a household name since the 90s. And I don't know when that's going to go away because he's just that good at basketball.
When
Kyle,
TNT
do you
fires
really
him.
not have Steph Curry on your list?
Oh,
Or
just
do you
wait.
not have Kareem? You don't have
I don't have
Kareem?
I don't
What
know.
Yeah,
the
that's
fuck?
a fucking awful take. Because next up, let's hop right into it. At number 3, I've got the captain. I've got Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
Um,
Before Magic came in, there's a reason 38,000 points. It's unheard of, except for one other guy who we're gonna get to.
You literally could not block his skyhook.
No, literally an unblockable shot. Quite literally. The reason
And
I've
he was
seen,
so good at it.
I saw there was people were talking about it recently, which is like, why does nobody do it nowadays? And
It's
the
a hard
argument-
ass shot.
It's a hard ass shot, and also it looks lame. It's the same reason
that's
people
fair.
don't shoot. It's the same reason people don't shoot granny free throws, even though statistically they're more efficient.
Yes.
But Kareem did not care. He did not care. It was unstoppable. It was an easy bucket for him. Why would you not?
And
shoot
for his era, his footwork was incredible around the rim.
so clean? Like we talk about Hakeem Olajuwon. I talked about Hakeem Olajuwon in the Dream Shake earlier. Like that was when Big started to actually get good footwork and stuff. Hakeem kind of started that when it came to shot creation footwork instead of just like drop step, put the ball on the ground and put my nuts on your shoulder. But Kareem for his, I mean, it was clean. You were right. You're right.
Yeah, and
So
he was such a good scorer for so long. Okay, tell us why Curry is this high.
Yeah, I have a Mr. Curry at number 3 because he's the most influential in terms of the modern era in the game of basketball. Again, before Steph entered the league, it was I don't know the exact statistics of it, but the league average for 3-pointers attempted in a game was well below, I would say, 20. And now teams are averaging 40 to 50 3-pointers a night just because of how efficient it is. Steph was the breaking point for that. And again, we talk about influence. Now, the game of basketball is forever changed because of Steph Curry. His influence on the game will last lifetimes just because of how good he is at 3-pointers. No one will touch his 3-pointers made record, just point blank, period. He's been so efficient for so long. He's going to continue to set that record. Maybe. But it's going to be one of those records that we held Kareem's scoring record to prior to LeBron breaking it. Like everybody thought it was going to be this unbreakable record. This is going to be one of those records that is held up in that standard. And it's a modern way of it. And again, 4 championships, man. Like he's a great basketball player. Even, I talked earlier that he's having a bad year. He's still averaging like 25, 5, and 4. Like he's
averaging like 22.
Whatever.
Tyler Hero is averaging more than him.
At this
I
current
said
moment.
this on an earlier episode.
And I don't care. Still, again, Steph is, I talk about influence. That's what my list is all about. Steph is very influential. He's number 3 for me.
Quick question. Did Steph get a TV show about how influential he was to the game of basketball?
He's coming out with an animated series called GOAT. That is probably about him, so maybe.
I'm sorry, did Steph Curry make an appearance in the 80s comedy Airplane?
True.
Hey, you got
Hey, Cameron,
there.
Cameron, could you spell something for me? I needed to double check. Could you spell recency bias?
RECENCYBIAS.
Thank you so much, Kyle. I think that's what you have.
Yep. I said it earlier. I'm well aware.
I'm more of the recency bias enjoyer, and I don't even got that.
Yeah. So I think, can we all say our number 2 at the same time?
Yeah, I think we
All right.
don't really need to talk much about it,
Yeah,
and I think we can all agree.
Yeah, so at number 2, we all have 3, 2, 1, Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan.
And therefore at number 1, it is Pookie Bear, Sunshine. LeBron!
Jared McCain. Wait, you guys have LeBron?
I was really tempted for number 2 to say Alex Caruso.
Yeah,
I have Jared McCain at number 1. I think ever since he came in out of Duke, he has been absolutely electric. Obviously, an injury has slowed down his season.
Shut the fuck up.
The trajectory.
The trajectory, though, I mean, he's already shown so much dominance and elite play in his short time in the league. That's why I have to put him as the greatest player of all time.
Yeah.
Actually, I have LeBron James.
20 years, dominant basketball.
20 All-NBA teams. 20 All-NBA teams. 21 All-Stars. 20
22.
All-NBA teams. 20 All-NBA teams.
People tend to forget as well. I just want to say this about Mike. Yes, he is 6-0 in the finals. But before he made it to the finals,
1-7 without Pippen.
1-7, and kept getting bounced by the Pistons.
Yeah.
He couldn't win. He couldn't win before he had a team around him.
LeBron never got bounced by the Pistons.
Never did.
Not a single time.
Yes. So there's that. I think it's partly, I have to admit, it is partly our age. LeBron has been the best player in the NBA, if not a top 5 player in the NBA, for 2 decades now. And that's been most of our lifetime.
He's had the longest peak of all time.
Yeah.
He has been the most dominant for the longest.
It often comes down to longest peak versus greatest peak, because that's, people say Jordan's run in the 2-3 peats are the greatest peak, which I think there's an argument there. 20 fucking years.
20 All-NBA teams.
It's fucking crazy.
That is never going to be touched.
No.
Wait, how many All-NBA teams?
20. Soon to be 21.
Yeah. It's untouchable. He is the, I know people call AD the unicorn. LeBron James is the unicorn. He
plays every position. He's really cute and gorgeous.
Mm-hmm. No controversies.
Other than the potential Drake setting him up with Yes Jules. But the source for that is DJ Academics, so it is unlikely.
A bad
he could have
source
potentially been at Diddy parties. Actually, he was at Diddy parties. We don't know what he did at Diddy parties.
Who in LA wasn't at Diddy parties at the time, though?
Probably like college students.
No, they were.
No, some of them were.
No, they were too old. They were too old to be at Diddy parties.
Yeah. I don't know, just like normal people.
Yeah, fair enough.
I don't think they were at Diddy parties.
But that rounds out all 3 of our top 10 NBA players of all time lists. Please, there's going to be a poll on this podcast. Please let us know who you think had the best list, had the most correct list, and why it is not Kyle. Jesus Christ, Kyle. That's like a criminally bad list. You left Magic off. You had Steph at 3.
No Wilt.
No Wilt
for either of you.
Yeah, I didn't have Wilt.
No, I had Wilt.
Crazy.
I had Wilt at 9.
Okay.
That's
no Wilt for you is crazy, Ryan.
There are 2 things you could potentially knock me on. One is Wilt, and the other is not having Tim Duncan higher. I think.
Yeah, I think you have Tim Duncan too low and you have Kobe too high.
I think the rest of my list is impeccable. I think. But
and for those who don't know, Kobe Bryant did meet his wife when he was 21 and she was 17, and he did propose to her the month she turned 18, and he did cheat on her at least in a hotel in 2003, July 1st.
Hey, we're just informing the people.
Yeah.
We're just informing the people.
That's what we're all about.
But let's get back from history and let's talk about the future of the NBA. We've got a couple key matchups this coming week that we're going to do some predictions for. So, on February 21st, It is a battle of the giants in the East. The New York Knicks are heading to Cleveland and taking on the Cavaliers. The lines, most of these games do not have lines available as of the time of recording. But if they have a line, I will tell you what the line is, and I will tell you if I'm going to bet it or not. But Cameron, I want to start with you. Knicks at Cavs. Who do you got?
Give me the Cavs. They're great at home. They haven't lost since DeAndre Hunter joined the team. And the Knicks, they are starting to feel that wear and tear from Tibbs' intense playing schedule. I don't think that's going in their direction. I think they are trending a little bit downwards, at least compared to the Cavs, who did have a little bit of a slump with the 3-game losing streak, but have looked great ever since then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kyle?
Cavaliers.
Yeah, I'm also taking the Cavs. I think it's going to be a close game. Again, it's two great teams in the East, but I agree. This is the point of the year where a Tom Thibodeau system takes a little bit off the gas, just because physically you need to. Obviously, you're running so much, you're doing so much throughout this point of the season that it's hard to keep pace, and especially with this dominant Cavs team, they're what's going to happen is they're going to put the gas a little too heavy to try and win it and get that, win over them. And I think it's going to just like bite them in the butt. They're just going to get too gassed too quick down the stretch of the game, and it just won't end up the way that they want it to. So I got the Cavs.
I'm going to take the Knicks here. I think your point is valid about the Tibbs energy sap coming in here. I think it's going to take about a week after the All-Star break for that to start kicking in. I think the energy off of the All-Star...
players are starting to get lingering injuries coming back up.
Yeah, but I don't think this is the Knicks' first game out of the All-Star break. I think that they're going to be, specifically because this is the first game outside of the All-Star break, I think they're going to be fresh. I think they're going to understand the importance of this game when it comes to, this is one of the two other Titans in the East. I think we could see a big game from Cat. I don't know why. I just got a gut feeling. But
because he's great.
I'm going to take...
That's a good reason.
Because I love him.
I think this could be an upset for the Knicks. Cavs lose one at home. I think it then sparks them to play with the intensity that we know the Cavs can play with. So I'm going to take the Knicks. I think it'll be close, but I'll take the Knicks. On the 24th, just a couple of days later, we have Minnesota at OKC. As Kyle, I believe you're going to go into, there's some interesting scheduling connotations with this game specifically.
I thought it was in Minnesota again.
No. So what happens in this particular game that we're highlighting in OKC, it's the second night of a back-to-back. The first back-to-back is also Minnesota versus OKC, but it's in Minnesota. So there's a 23-hour difference between the start of this first game.
Second game.
Yes. It's the second game of the two.
Yeah. So, like Kyle said, both teams going to be coming off a back-to-back, facing each other. This one is in Oklahoma City. OKC needs to keep winning to keep solidifying their lead at the top of the conference. I believe it's like a 6-game lead right now atop the West for them because Memphis and the Rockets and Denver's picked it up a little bit here, but they haven't been winning at the same rate that OKC has. But OKC just lost to Minnesota before the All-Star break. So, Kyle, who do you have on the second half of this back-to-back in OKC?
I'm hoping that history kind of repeats ourselves because the game that OKC lost to us, it was on the second night of a back-to-back for them as well, and it was the second night of a back-to-back for us. So, statistically, this season, in this specific scenario, the Wolves are 100% in their win rate. So, I'm going to say Wolves by a dillion. Because what else would I pick?
Given that this is the second game in a back-to-back, I'm just going to pick the home team for each of them. So I'm going to go with the Thunder for this one. The Wolves statistically this season have been pretty good against higher-seeded opponents. It's mostly those lower-seeded opponents that they've struggled with beating. And OKC just came off their biggest loss of the season in Minnesota. It's likely that Rudy Gobert or Mike Conley could come back from injury before that game. They have yet to announce since there's still a couple of days as of recording before the games resume following the All-Star break. But the second game, I think just I'm going to pick the home team each time and go with OKC for this one.
Yeah, I think on the second night of a back-to-back, this is going to come down to depth. And Minnesota will see if
I think,
how much
yeah, I think,
how much they return to the starting rotation may give them a more energetic depth and whatnot. Because if you're going to have Nas coming off the bench, you're going to have Dillingham coming off the
I
bench,
don't think,
TSJ.
yeah.
Randall's not going to be back.
Randall's not going to come back. Nas is still going to start, but the Wolves
still
do
gonna
have some depth, just not as much as the Thunder.
Yeah, you're still going to have Dillingham, TSJ, Jalen Clark, all coming off the bench. Maybe Josh Minot if he gets minutes back.
Either Mike Conley or Nikhil Alexander-Walker if he returns from injury.
So depending
Luka
on who
Garza
comes
as
back,
well.
we'll see what the bench depth looks like for Minnesota. But I think second night of a back-to-back, I think Minnesota could take the first game as well, which means Oklahoma City's going to want to get their get back. So I'm going to take OKC here as well. Final game. The day after the second half of that back-to-back, we have the Luka Doncic revenge game. Dallas is making its way to Los Angeles and taking on the Lakers. There is a line available for this game. Currently, the Lakers are favored by 7. It is Lakers by 7. So, who you got, and are you taking the line? I'll start with you, Cameron.
I am going to take the Lakers. I will also take the line. I think it's going to be greater than a 7-point victory. Obviously, the Mavericks are a bit beat up right now, especially in the front court. Not saying that the Lakers have incredible front court play, but they do have LeBron James if he decides that he can come back from that ankle injury that sat him out of the All-Star game. LeBron can definitely feast on that weakened Dallas front court. Luka hasn't been great since joining the Lakers. He's had a couple games. He's averaging like 14 points, 4 assists, and 5 rebounds or something like that. I think, is this in Dallas? Or
No, this is in Los Angeles.
Okay. Regardless, I still think he's going to turn it up, show Nico Harrison what he did wrong, and probably, I'm going to say he drops 28 points.
28 points, I could see that.
Lakers win. Mavericks, I think Kyrie's still probably going to have a pretty good game. No one can really defend him on the Lakers.
Yeah, I'm taking the Lakers by a trillion. Dallas is so banged up right now, and I think that this game is really going to expose that. And it's the Luka revenge game. Truly, like, that man has some vitriol in him against this organization now. I would not be surprised if he was just kind of conserving his energy. He was trying to lay low, and people think, maybe Dallas won the trade, whatever. And he's gonna, if anybody's gonna do 100 points, it's gonna be that game, and it's gonna be Luka. He's just gonna be such a ball hog and make it happen. So absolutely, I think the Lakers are gonna just destroy the Mavericks.
Yeah, I'm taking the Lakers here and to cover. This Mavericks team is depleted. AD's out. I think they just don't have the firepower to keep up with once the chemistry kind of establishes itself between LeBron and Luka. I just don't think they can keep up with that offense. So I'm taking the Lakers and I'm taking the 7 points as well. All right. And finally, it wouldn't be an episode of Bisportuals without the one, the only. That's right. It's Cameron Gertenson's Album of the Week. What do you got for us?
This album, I have an album that honestly, it's pretty good. It's nothing special when it comes to musicality, but it was to some people at some point, and it has a really great story behind that. I'm going to be talking about Death Metal by Panchico. So Panchico is an indie rock band formed in Nottingham, England, around 1997. It was formed between 4 childhood friends who went to high school together. They recorded some demos in 1997 through 1999 and released their first EP entitled Death Metal in 2000. This EP got some local praise, but they never got signed to a real record deal. And come 2001, they had recorded a couple demo tracks for another EP that they were going to release. And the band broke up eventually because they all went to college. They all went their separate ways. In fact, the drummer from this time period, when the band broke up, he enlisted in the army, and none of the 3 members ever heard from him ever again. Yeah, so fast forward to 2016, a 4chan user is looking through a thrift store in Nottingham. They find this CD that is heavily distorted and rotted, and on the inside it has 4 first names, one of them being Owain, who is the lead singer of the group. I'll get to him later, as well as the year this project was released, 2000. They play the CD. It is heavily rotted. Everything is distorted and rough. And they post on the music board on 4chan. They're like, hey, does anyone know who made this? Can anyone help me find who made this? People want him to rip the CD, put it online. So he does that. He puts it on YouTube. It gets like 200,000 views. And there's like a cult following of people on 4chan dedicated to finding more demos from this band, dedicated to finding like an unrotted version of these songs. And this search takes him a while. It takes him to 2020 when Owain Davies, the lead singer of the band, gets a Facebook message that's like, hey, are you the lead singer of Panchico? And he's like, yeah. So then he contacts the drummer and the bassist, and he lets them know about this album success. And they're like, oh, cool. He goes over to an old friend's house who does have a copy of the death metal EP that is in much better condition, and they remaster it from that. So in 2020, they released death metal to streaming services. This includes the 4 original remastered songs, 3 songs that they recorded in 2001 before the band broke up, as well as the rotted versions of the original 4 songs. As the lead singer, Owain Davies, said in an interview, he feels like that's part of the song now, as it was how many people were first introduced to it. Since then, they played their first show back together in 2021, over 20 years after their last live show. They released an album called Failed at Maths in 2023. They went on a couple US tours after that, and in April of this year, they're expected to release their second studio album, Gink Go. Not really sure how that's pronounced, but I'm looking forward to that a little bit. In 2020, they also released a bunch of demos that they recorded from 1997 through 1999. My favorite of those being All They Wanted. I think that's a cool song. Wanted to talk. There's only like 7 real songs on this project, so I wanted to share my short thoughts on each of them. I think Death Metal, the title track, it's pretty cool. I love the way the opening and the first verse lead into the little breakdown. Stabilizers for Big Boys, the second track, is easily my least favorite. I feel like the vocals don't fit in at all. I feel there's a bunch of transitions throughout the song that I feel like are a beat too late, if that makes any sense. Laputa and The Eyes of Ibad, I don't really have too much strong opinion on. I thought Laputa had some cool riffs in it. Cut, I like the main piano riff. Sodium Chloride sounds a lot like Fake Plastic Trees by Radiohead, but with a cool drum loop that moves the song along in a nice way. And finally, Kicking Cars is also just okay. I think, yeah, this is a pretty good album, but I really like the story behind it, and I wanted to talk about that mostly. Also wanted to mention that they were weebs. I originally found this album, it was recommended to me on Spotify or Tidal like a year or 2 ago, and I was like, hey, that's a pretty cool cover art. It's just sort of like a manga panel that they did a little art on. Yeah. But that's one of my favorite album arts. So that's how I found it.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. We want to thank you all for taking the time to listen to our podcast. We appreciate it. We appreciate you taking the time of your day. So thank you all. We will see you all again next week. Bye-bye.
Bye. 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 Kieran McCain is a goat.